Welcome, one and all, back to the Hurdle Podcast. Man, oh man,
Yeah.
what a week of NFL football we had.
Absolutely.
And we're going to recap some week 2 action, a couple upsets here and there, a couple big storylines to talk about, injury-wise and trade signing-wise kind of dealios. And then we'll give you our week 3 picks. Because, a lot of these we agree with, but there's some good matchups for sure this week. So let's go back to last week. Let's start. We talked about the Thursday night game last week.
Yes, we
so we
did.
can kind of skip over that one. What order do you want going?
Just in order, whatever's on your.
Okay, sweet.
Whatever's on your phone.
Bills at the Raiders.
Okay.
Josh Allen played like Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
He finally. This was a good bounce back week for him, I think, especially coming off that Jets game on a shorter week.
No turnovers. I think something that I really took away from was James Cook, how efficient he was. Limited number of carries. I think he had 16, but still had 125 total yards. Really interesting to see that he's not getting any of the red zone looks. That seems to all be going to Latavius Murray and Damian Harris, which I found very interesting. But Buffalo, the last couple of years, they're known to destroy bad teams. The Raiders are not a good team. So there's not a ton to take away from this game. The Raiders, I thought they were. They barely won week 1 against a Denver team that's been struggling through 2 weeks. So Buffalo looked dominant against a team that they should have dominated.
Exactly. For a home opener, I didn't question or see anything that was like, oh my God.
No picks from Allen.
Yeah,
huge.
I was going to say, the efficiency of the offense was really apparent this week. They're finally getting, I think, into that groove. I think it was just an off night on Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, they were playing the Raiders, who have one of the probably worst secondaries in the league, if not the worst. But those are the games you expect to have a Josh Allen game with 4 touchdowns and no picks, and he delivered on that.
Absolutely.
Baltimore Cincy.
Didn't catch a ton of this game. Really interested to see the target spread from Baltimore in this game. Mark Andrews coming back. Odell got hurt. Mark Andrews now being back in the mix. Zay Flowers was potent week 1. How are they going to use Rashad Bateman now that they have Zay Flowers? Because he's kind of taken up that slot position. So I really like the target distribution, though. It's interesting to see how the run holes haven't entirely opened up for Lamar in the design QB run game. 12 carries, I believe 53 yards for Lamar in this game, which isn't exactly what you're looking for. But yeah, they had 12 carries, 54 yards, sorry. But yeah.
Damn, you were off a yard.
Edwards, 6.2 yards a carry, which is exactly what you're looking for. You love to see that. And then, yeah, like I said, the target distribution, 6 for Aguilar, 5 for Flowers, 8 for Andrews, 4 for OBJ who got hurt, 3 for Bateman. So now Bateman might fill in a little bit more for OBJ's targets. They're going to spread those around nicely. But I think Baltimore's look good, and I don't know what Cincy's doing. Burrow not sitting the first 2 weeks has probably been the biggest question mark to start the season, especially coming in basically banged up already week 1, had no training camp, and it shows. For a guy that we had ranked as the number 2 best player in football, when, that's probably one of the takes that have aged the worst for us so far coming into the year. Just everything is struggling. They're not able to stretch the field at all. T. Higgins had a breakout game, I believe 8 for 89, 2 touchdowns there on that end for him. But Chase has really struggled so far earlier. He's already like buy low trade candidate in fantasy, as is Burrow. And
he's got the same value as Puka Nacua right now. It's like, which I never thought would come out of my mouth, but like he does. Like,
yeah, exactly. So I don't know if it's Zach Taylor, if it's the play calling, if it's Burrow being banged up, if it's Cincy's O-line. I don't know entirely what is going on, but there's clearly not enough communication going on between each of the units of Cincy's offense, and it's really, really hurting them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think for Baltimore, from my end, I agree the distribution looked good. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Zay Flowers, what they're using him for. He's really able to stretch the field when he needs to, because then there's so much attention now on Mark Andrews being back. They can take 1 or 2 deep shots to him, and he's going to usually win those one-on-one with a slot corner, I think 9 times out of 10, I would say, and then having Andrews back was great. I think the run game looked fine. They're averaging a lot when they do run the ball.
Yeah.
But I think we both kind of talked about it, like off camera. They need to go get a running back, I think, just to make Lamar more dynamic and that offense a little more dynamic, because no J.K. Dobbins the rest of the year, torn Achilles. And who'd they have running the ball this week? Gus Edwards and
Justice
Hill.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like those guys are fine, but this happens every year with Baltimore. About 4 weeks in,
Mhm.
or earlier in this case, J.K. Dobbins gets hurt, and then they're just doing running back by committee.
Yeah.
And it usually doesn't turn out well for him. Jonathan Taylor's on the market. I don't see why they don't make a move for him. Especially because he'll be available after week 4. So like I think this will be a good period from week 2 to week 4 to see what you have in those backs. And if you don't want to make the move, that's fine. But I think this offense could use one more weapon for Lamar. More in the run game, just so the box isn't so loaded on maybe those QB designed runs when he's in.
I think something that's really interesting now that we're bringing up the topic of running back is like the last time Lamar had a consistent running back, like Dobbins hasn't played a full season.
No, I think in his career combined, he's maybe played a full season.
Yeah, and torn Achilles, a torn ACL,
Another torn ACL,
and yeah, 2 torn ACLs. So he's had 4 seasons. He's played maybe 16 games, and the last time Lamar was really potent in the run game and really efficient was when he had a consistent running back like Mark Ingram.
Yep.
And that's the last time we saw this offense. Granted, it was Greg Roman offense, but it was the last time we really saw Lamar get a lot of one-on-one matchups with linebackers. That's really where you want him because he's impossible to tackle in the open field. So I think you make a very interesting point. I mean, Taylor's the betting favorite right now, 3-1 to go to Baltimore. Vegas really likes that option. If Taylor does get moved, or if Taylor even decides he wants to play this year. I think those are all options, and I think Baltimore starting out 2-0. I thought their passing game looked a lot better this game than against Houston. They weren't nearly as sloppy with the ball.
I was gonna say they looked a lot more smooth and precise.
Yeah.
Which you want to see in these division games because those obviously mean the most. And with a struggling Cincy team coming in, that's especially when you want to take advantage of that.
Exactly. Yeah. So they weren't turning the ball over anything crazy, and since he's got to find some rhythm, it's gonna be a struggle in week 3, especially if Burrow doesn't play.
Exactly, and I was just gonna allude to that. You know, I don't think it's a Chase Burrow thing because it wasn't in college and it wasn't the first 2 years. It might be play calling. I don't know. They've just looked so stagnant, and like we even said, like they invested in the offensive line, and I think the line's been okay. It hasn't been great by any means, but like it's been fine. Nothing. It's better than last year, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know where the disconnect is. Is it maybe I don't want to say it's losing Giovanni Bernard as your second back, but there's something up with this offense that's just not clicking. And I mean, maybe it's not having a dominant tight end, but they've never had that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. Cincy's the weird one right now.
I honestly think it's a Burrow injury thing. Nothing about what he's done through the first 2 weeks has looked comfortable. Everything's looked forced.
Yeah, it's looked rushed.
Pressured. It seems like the game is moving at a much faster pace for him than it was either the first 3 years in the NFL or last year of LSU. Like it seems like the reads are so much quicker than he's used to anticipating, and maybe you're not going to connect on some of those bailout opportunities with Chase and Higgins, but he was with T. Higgins in this game. T. Higgins played fantastic. So I really do think it's a Burrow injury / confidence thing. And the fact that they didn't sit him the first 2 weeks, I thought was a really poor decision. And right now they're going to bite the repercussions of that because he probably won't be playing week 3 and potentially might not be playing week 4. You could see since he started out 0-4 with a team that's looking to contend for a Super Bowl, and there's no sign of offense there, and you lost a couple big pieces on defense in Jesse Bates that went to Atlanta. So you're trying to recuperate there too. Nothing is feeling right in Cincy right now.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, they could easily get out to an 0-4 start. And then that puts us in a bad spot because we were thinking 13-4, 12-5-ish for the Cincinnati Bengals. So it's just, I don't know. Something's up in Cincy, and they got to figure it out, and it's got to start this upcoming week.
Yeah.
KC Jacksonville.
Yeah. Offensively lacking, I would say.
Which was surprising.
I thought
both sides.
Yeah, both sides. I mean, of course, the return of Travis Kelce, the return of Chris Jones.
Yes,
Chris Jones was terrific.
Yes, he played great.
Already earned the $19.5 million through game 1. Just the level that this defense goes to when he's on the field. And Jacksonville's line really struggled to pick up the Spagnuolo blitz coverages. I thought Lawrence really struggled in this game. Spagnuolo threw some more exotic looks out there. And I thought it was interesting. It seemed like Casey played a lot of cards up front, which I wasn't really expecting. Normally, especially later in the season, they keep their cards really tight.
I mean, that's how
They're
Doug
not
Peterson's
giving a
always
ton
played.
out. They're gonna start running in circles and huddles and just doing really interesting and creative things offensively, especially in the red zone.
Oh, for Casey.
Yeah, for Casey.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah. So, I think it's really interesting that Reed kind of let Spagnuolo kind of flourish a little bit in this game. And I mean, the receivers are trash in KC outside of Travis Kelce. They're not good. And they're really struggling to get on the same page as Mahomes, something like we're seeing in Cincinnati right now. And Kelsey was coming back off an injury. I wasn't expecting him to have 130 yards and 2
I
touchdowns
mean, he
out the
played fine
gate.
though.
But he was open and he created opportunities when they needed them. But it was really a lot more balanced with Noah Gregg, Justin Watson, those kind of guys in the 3 tight end sets, which Reed loves to run. So I thought that was very interesting. And then from Jacksonville's end, defense played spectacularly. I don't know what this offense was doing. 14 targets to Christian Kirk. Lawrence could never find Ridley after it seemed like he could find him anywhere in week 1 against Indianapolis, which is, of course, the level of team you're playing. That's going to throw you off their path. There's going to be growing pains with Trevor Lawrence, I think,
Yeah.
still this year. And just because you have a new receiver one, you're still trying to get on the same page with Peterson because he's starting to run these heavier sets, get ETN more involved. But I don't think it's a terrible loss for Jacksonville this early in the season. You're still smoothing over some wrinkles that you weren't expecting to be there and kind of tackling some unexpected problems. So with Jacksonville, I expect them to bounce back easily in week 3. They have a great bounce back spot. So I'm gonna expect them to destroy their opponent there. And then with KC, more of a game managing win than I was expecting. I was expecting a little closer to more of a explosion offensively, especially after the bad taste that they left in our mouths with Detroit week 1. But you can't be mad because you got to win and your defense was lights out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing I take away is I think losing Eric Bieniemy is going to be huge for Casey down the road.
Yeah.
Having Matt Nagy calling the offense right now, it kind of concerns me because those plays that we were seeing everyone get open on
I agree.
last year, they're not getting open. Schematically, they're not getting open. And then that leaves Mahomes in a position where he has to make a play. And that's where I think you're going to see more turnovers this year for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you've already seen a pick in the first 2 games, which is uncommon for him because, like, at least Lawrence didn't throw a pick when KC was throwing everything at him. Grant didn't play great, but, like, didn't turn the ball over. So I think it worries me a little bit for KC the first 2 weeks how the offense has looked.
And to grow on your point, I think a really, really similar comparison is Daboll leaving Buffalo.
Yep.
We've seen Dorsey take over there the last 2 years, and you've seen Buffalo crush bad opponents, really struggle come playoff time, really struggle against really good defenses, i.e. the New York Jets the past 2 years. So I think when you see that transition there, you see it's not really working out for Buffalo. McDermott's kind of taking the blame, even though I really think it's more of a Dorsey problem than it is an anything else problem. You could see that grow a little bit more in KC. I think Patrick Mahomes is, of course, a better quarterback than Josh Allen. It's going to be easier to smooth out that transition. And Matt Nagy's been an offensive coordinator there before with Mahomes, with Alex Smith. He kind of knows the system. But after going to 3 straight AFC titles with a different guy, trying to reroute how you play football back into year 1, year 2 when you were just learning. It's something that's really tough to do, and he's trying to have to like rewind the plays back into his head, and it's definitely gonna be a tough transition, but I expect KC to figure it out by the middle of the season.
Yeah, I think they will, but it's something to keep your eye on. Absolutely. I think for sure. And then
Maybe
Jacksonville,
Reed take play calling too.
That I mean, I
between that
wouldn't
and
be
Dallas
shocked.
with McCarthy taking play calling now that Kellen Moore's gone. You could see Andy Reid take play calling come late into the season playoff time.
Yeah, exactly. And it wouldn't surprise me either.
Me neither.
Just depending on how this offense is looking going into the playoffs.
Exactly.
I think for Jacksonville, I think they looked okay. I think I agree with everything you said. I think their defense, the fact that they held KC to 17 is really impressive. The O-line in Jacksonville kind of worries me. Lawrence seemed rushed on a lot of things. Rather, he would be taking sacks. Or a lot of his incompletions just kind of felt like rushed, hurry throws.
Yep.
So I think that's something to keep an eye on, but I think they'll also bounce back, kind of like you were saying. I think they got an easy stretch coming up. So I think
a lot of Christian Kirk was surprising. And
Yeah,
a lot of
like,
missed opportunities in the red zone. Way too many.
you can't settle for 3 field goals.
Way too many missed opportunities in the red zone. We're talking. The Calvin Ridley drilling the back of the stanchion, 3 Mrs. A. Jones targets. All great throws. Just the timing never worked out there in those situations. You have to have touchdowns when you're playing against a team like Kansas City.
Exactly. You gotta put points up.
Too many missed opportunities for Jacksonville.
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe the surprise of the week. Tennessee defeats the Chargers 27-24 in overtime. Yep. Ryan Tannehill looked okay against a pretty good defense.
I don't know.
Or what we think is a pretty good defense.
On paper is a really good defense.
But they let Ryan Tannehill have 4 incompletions for 250 and a touchdown.
I think what's going on, I think Staley has to go at this point. If you are I honestly think that's partially why they brought in Kellen Moore, is Kellen Moore could be a head coach week 6. And if we're going to play the little overreact game like we did in week 1, it's that Brendan Staley is finding himself the exit door quicker than I expected this season. Because everyone's healthy still through 2 weeks. No Chargers injuries outside of Eckler. But he's supposed to be back week 3. So.
But like in a game like this, you don't need to rely on the run because I think outside of Kevin Byard, like Tennessee secondary is not the greatest.
Their front 7 is what stands out because you're supposed to be able to throw and expose Tennessee's secondary.
And it felt like the Chargers could. I mean, Herbert threw for over 302 touchdowns, and Keenan Allen had a day. But
Mike Williams had 14 targets.
How does their defense not stop Tennessee?
I think
they even contained Derrick Henry.
I think it's a Staley defensive, and DeAndre Hopkins only played 54% of the snaps. So they contain Henry. Hopkins is only on the field half the time, yet they can't stop Noah Westbrook-Ikine. They can't stop Treylon Burks in deep plays. Like, things that LA never took advantage of any of the things that were given to them. One of the plays, they go for it on 4th, don't get it in the red zone. Fine, which I'm fine with. They were looking to go 2 possessions. I'm fine with that. And then because of that, Tennessee's pinned back on the 4. Treylon Burks gets an 85-yard catch the next play. And it's like you can't have those secondary misses.
You can't have the flip of field that quick.
That completely changed the spectrum of the game because now you're going from dominating, even though you didn't get points, you're dominating field position. So you're expecting to get the ball right back around midfield, around the 40, and get a 3 and out and go from there, and you can just reroute the drive all over again. And that didn't happen, and it ended up turning into a Tennessee touchdown, and that's basically a 14-point flip because you don't get 7 on your end, and you give up 7 really in a 4-play drive for Tennessee.
Plays, yeah.
So I think there's way too many miscues for LA coming into week 3. Not having Eckler, I do think really hurts because Josh Kelly without Eckler, it's a lot like Madison without Dalvin. He's not a good running back. If he's not the change of pace back, he's not a quality player. That's what it is. So while I think he fits fine in the scheme, you have to have Eckler to exploit those run holes, and it allows Allen and Mike Williams to go more over the top because Eckler's in those flats. You saw Mike Williams kind of be the check down guy in this game, hence the 14 targets, and while Keenan was dominant in this game, almost killed me in fantasy. So
he looked great for me in fantasy.
Yeah, he was terrific. And I think for Tennessee, their recipe is super simple. It's a lot like Tampa's. Don't turn the ball over. Let your run game thrive and dominate, and take your shots and use your front 7 to its capabilities. Exploit your strengths, hide your weaknesses, and Vrabel is one of the best coaches in the league at doing that.
Exactly. I mean, I think it was really a shock for me how well Tennessee played, specifically how well Ryan Tannehill played. Again, not turning
up with 3 picks.
Exactly, not turning the ball over in this game, huge. You give the Chargers too many opportunities, they'll blow you out the gym. And they just didn't have that. I mean, again, they contained Derrick Henry, but it seemed like big play after big play after big play with a bunch of checkdowns. And that's what Tennessee wants, and Tennessee played how they wanted. And their front 7 was after Herbert all day.
And they kept the ball out of Herbert's hands with their run game.
Exactly. All right. Packers, Falcons. Interesting.
I hated this game.
Ooh.
This game cost us $350.
Yep.
Cost me $420 in total. Because Green Bay just forgot how to play offense in the fourth quarter. And that's simply what it came down to. Atlanta had no business winning this game. Green Bay was dominant through 3 quarters, is what it was.
Yeah.
Through 3 quarters, Love didn't turn the ball over, which
I
is
mean, yeah,
exactly
they were
what you're looking for.
up 12.
They were up 12, and the run game wasn't very good at all. They have to have Aaron Jones for that run game to be explosive because Dylan, like I said about Josh Kelly, has to be a change of pace back. Can't be just on his own. But I was really impressed with Atlanta's capabilities in the fourth quarter, basically. Where they made the big plays when they counted.
Yeah.
Bijan was electric.
He played great. That was my biggest takeaways.
Yeah.
Okay, that first week,
Mhm.
it was him testing the waters.
Yeah.
And then he comes out against a better defense
Yep.
in the Green Bay Packers and looked almost unstoppable at
Yeah.
times. It was beautiful to watch if you're a Bijan fan.
Yeah. I mean, 6.5 yards a carry. London got in the mix.
That kind of surprised me too.
That did not surprise me.
Drake London on Jair.
That surprised me. But I feel like Jair wasn't in man a ton. Granted, the touchdown was scored on Jair. It didn't feel like because there was no star receiver in this matchup, they didn't feel like they had the need to man him up and play shadow coverage most of the games. And they got burnt for it though. And Green Bay's never been a good zone team. LaFleur's zone schemes are not good. I forget the name of their DC, but when they play zone, they get torched. Minnesota last year, you saw their adjustment. They went to man later in the year, and they were much better.
And shut down Justin Jefferson.
And shut down Jefferson. So, but what really was the beneficiary, Joe Barry, thank you. But what really was the DC for Green Bay. His zone schemes are not good. But what really was the bright spot for me was Atlanta's O-line.
Yeah, they kept Ritter up all game.
Kept Ritter up, but more importantly for me, in an Arthur Smith offense, you have to be able to create run gaps and run fits for your running backs, especially if you're going to run the ball 30 to 35 times a game with Bijan and Algier. And the team yards per carry was massive. 4.7 yards per carry.
You'll take that all day.
3 for Algier. He comes to lay down after his first game, but he's still getting 16 carries. Ritter had 10 carries, and most of those aren't even run design. Those aren't designed QB.
Those are him just running.
Those are him.
I mean, that was what his touchdown was, right? It was
exactly.
It was an improvised
pass play. So, I think Green Bay should have won this game handedly, but here we are talking about Atlanta with a 1 point.
And us without $300 in our pocket.
Yeah, hurts.
I mean, yeah, I think the big thing for me is I think Jordan Love cooled off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he still threw for 3 touchdowns, but 151 yards on 14 completions is nothing to write home about.
And Terrell was locked down in the second.
Yeah, I was going to say, Terrell was really locking down Green Bay's weapons, and they didn't have a Christian Watson in this game also. I think that played a big factor.
Yep.
Because your number one is, Romeo Dobbs?
Yeah.
And then Weeks was the
Gene
one.
Reed.
Yeah.
A
bunch of no-names at receiver outside of, Dobbs.
Who isn't a massive name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't expect a lot from Jordan Love from that, but then you got to have that run game like you were talking about. And they didn't have it with AJ Dillon. Aaron Jones was out. It's just, they weren't flowing well offensively as they were week 1 against Chicago. I mean, granted, Chicago, but they put 38 points last week on an NFL team. It's like, I expected almost that in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I expected points, and you just never saw it because they don't have any weapons outside of Christian Watson, really.
Yep. And
the run game has to have Aaron Jones.
Yeah, and the receiving game honestly has to have Aaron Jones because he was their big play touchdown, and I forget who Green Bay played week 1. Chicago, yes, thank you. But yeah, he had 2 catches, but he had the 45-yard touchdown in the receiving game from Aaron Jones. So it's like now that they also lose the check down, they had to go to Jaden Reed, and those options. He's not as good of a player as Aaron Jones, even though he was honestly pretty good in this game. But it's a game Green Bay deserved to win, but doesn't get a W for.
Exactly, and we go into Atlanta being 2-0.
Yeah.
Going into week 3, which
I was not expecting.
Exactly. Next up, Seattle and Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Overtime win for the Seahawks. Tyler Lockett touchdown to end it.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit has a very bad secondary.
Yep.
Geno cooked.
Mm-hmm.
And Geno, I don't think we thought would cook again.
Not entirely.
but he has a great game. Kev Walker was great in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even if you look at it, Jared Goff played fine outside the pick.
Yep.
But like again, it ultimately came down to the turnover battle, it looks like in this game. Because you can kind of look across Amon-Ra and DK kind of cancel each other out. Montgomery and Walker pretty much cancel each other out. And then Geno and Goff do until you look at the pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying this game is on Jared Goff and that's why Detroit lost.
Mm-hmm.
I just think you gotta be able to win the turnover battle. So either your defense needs to create turnovers on Seattle, or you can't commit any. And Detroit just was unlucky and was the one that committed it.
Yeah, I think there was some really. I mean, the pick six kind of swung the game
Yeah,
in terms of momentum. The one that Goff threw, and it took Seattle to a double-digit lead when Detroit was driving. So, I thought that was a big swing in terms of things. But for Detroit to come back, force overtime, they overcame the C.J. Gardner-Johnson injury, which they're gonna have to now overcome for the rest of the season because he's out for the year.
yeah. Brian Branch is gonna have to really step up.
But we like Brian Branch.
Yeah, we love Brian Branch.
We're big proponents of him. But I thought Detroit's secondary got lit up, but was the huge surprise to me, which was Hutchinson was contained
Right?
by two tackles that we had no idea who they even were coming into the game because they lost their pick from last year, Cross, and they lost Abe Lucas.
Yeah.
So Seattle again patching together this makeshift offensive line.
And they kept Geno clean.
They kept him clean, they kept him upright, and they allowed him to make reads. And Walker was fine. I mean, the yards per carry are not what you're looking for. He had one big run and then got held like 1.8 yards per carry after the first run of the game. That's not what you're looking for there. What you are looking for is Geno to spread the ball around. He did. Lockett was the target and the beneficiary in the red zone this week.
Yep, game winner.
And I think honestly Lockett's still the best receiver on this team. I think he's been the best receiver on this team for the past 3 to 4 years. People are enamored with DK's size and stature, but when you look at the stats, Lockett's the one that gets things done for this offense.
I mean, yeah, 10 targets, 8
yeah.
catches,
2 touchdowns in the red zone. And for a smaller guy, he's the guy that constantly creates separation for the Seattle offense, him and JSN. DK's the more go up and get it kind of guy.
Yep.
So I was honestly fairly impressed with what Seattle did. They got the big pick, they got the big turnover. I was really deterred from what Detroit's front seven did, but otherwise I thought Detroit played a fine game, and I think they're not in a great bounce back spot for next week, but it'll be a coin flip kind of game. And that's how Vegas is kind of treating it. They play Atlanta week 3. But it's gonna be really interesting to see what Dan Campbell does and how this team bounces back come week 3.
Exactly. The battle of the rookie quarterbacks for like a quarter and a half, 2 quarters. Indy wins 31-20 over Houston. Anthony Richardson leaves with a concussion.
Yep.
Brother's got to learn to take a slide.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He is so electric. And he had 2 rushing touchdowns to start this game that were over 15 yards each, or right at 15.
Yep.
And he looked great. That was what you wanted to see from Indy with Philly's OC being their head coach. You want to see the Jalen Hurts looks. Yep, Shane Steichen. You want to see those looks, and you got it. Until he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, brother, take a slide.
Yeah.
Like,
he's gonna be nasty.
Oh, he's gonna be so good.
I think what we saw from Richardson in this game is we're seeing all the athletic tools coming into full effect because Indy hired the right guys. They hired Steichen, they let go of Reich and Eberflus the last couple of years, and they've been trying to patch it together basically in all their spots defensively. I mean, Shaq Leonard's been always hurt. Just nothing has ever come to fruition for them. The one year they have Jonathan Taylor, their quarterback play sucks.
Yeah.
Or they had Jonathan Taylor go for 1,800 yards, their quarterback plays trash. Now Jonathan Taylor's hurt, their quarterback plays good.
Hurt.
Or yeah, quote unquote hurt. He's running routes and posting them on Instagram. I think he looks fine. But he's still got to sit out another 2 weeks. And your quarterback plays really good. And I think they do need a running back to take that load off Richardson. But he also needs to learn how to slide. I understand being 6'4", 250 and running a 4.3 and just knowing you're bigger and stronger than these guys. But you got to protect your head. And he's had 2 concussion protocols in the first 2 weeks. He's a fantasy freaking demon.
And we only got a little taste of it because, I mean,
yeah,
6 of 10 for 56 passing, is going to jump out at you.
Yeah.
But the 3 carries for 35 yards and 2 touchdowns is going to jump out
Yeah.
at you.
Especially when you're only through a quarter and a half. And it's like, if that can become a staple of your offense when your quarterback can stay healthy when you do it, Indy could really benefit from that offensively, especially when Taylor comes back. Houston, they're gonna be playing down in a lot of these games.
I was gonna say Stroud's numbers just look fluctuate because they were down.
It's a lot of empty yards. It's a lot of garbage time yards. Houston never really had a chance. I'm fairly happy with D'Amico Ryans so far. I think even though they're 0-2, holding Baltimore to 25 and a Philly-led team, granted Gardner Minshew for most of the game,
But
but
I mean, Minshew
played with
looked
Philly
great.
last year.
Yep.
So he knows Steichen's offense already.
I mean, only 4 incompletions.
Only 4 incompletions, and Minshew's a fine backup.
He's probably one of the better ones. Him and probably like Cooper Rush.
But yeah, Stroud. I mean, 47 pass attempts from Stroud, almost 400 yards passing, no turnovers. Nico Collins 7 for 146 and touchdown by. A lot of that felt empty, kind of in the later stages of the game when they were scrambling to find something and get them back in. But really impressed with Indy, and if Richardson can stay healthy, this offense could actually be really potent.
Yeah, absolutely. Tampa, Chicago.
Told you. I friggin' told you.
I mean, shit.
I'm telling these frickers, dude, man. Tampa can play.
Tampa can play, and Chicago sucks.
Yeah. So do
Chicago's bad.
we want to talk about the field stuff?
I say we do. I mean, why not? Like, I don't think it can go unnoticed that you call coach out or coaches out and then turn around and be like, oh no, I didn't mean it like that.
5-step drop
and it's just like, dude, the best time to get an answer out of a player is right after the game.
You speak their mind.
And he spoke his mind, and he pretty much said, the play calling is shit.
Which it is.
And it is. I'm not blaming him there. But also, when you've got 5 brothers wide open,
pick one.
You gotta throw to one of them.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many plays where I'm like, if Justin Fields makes 2 throws, Chicago could win this game. And he just didn't. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I get it. You're a fine athlete running the ball, and I think you can be dynamic that way. I think that's where he is the most dynamic.
Yep.
But when you have dudes wide open on 25-yard posts for touchdowns, you just gotta throw it. If it gets picked, it gets picked, man.
And he's also not helping himself out because, like you said, he is the most dynamic, and this offense is the best when he's running it. But he's not helping himself out in any fashions because you have to be able to throw the ball for the run to even be a threat. Yep. Otherwise, they can just QB spy you to death. They're going to run 4-5. Chicago's O-line, not good. And Tampa's D-line feasted, which Tampa's front seven still one of the best in the league, and they're so significantly underrated right now. It's honestly ridiculous.
I don't get why people are shocked that Tampa's 2-0. Like,
I'm clearly not.
Well, no, it's just like, look at the teams they've played, and it's like, their defense is elite. And Baker now has the most weapons he's ever had. So it's like, if Baker can't make this work.
He's playing fine.
He's playing great.
He's playing good football.
Like, I know you dogged on Baker a lot in previous, like.
In Cleveland.
Cleveland Baker.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think it's been a fine transition. You're obviously not going to have a smooth one replacing the GOAT. But, like.
Yeah.
He's not turning the ball over.
Yeah.
He's making smart decisions. And their run game with Rachaad White has been pretty good.
Yeah, it's been fine.
It's been relieving a lot of pressure off him in some instances.
I mean, coming into it, I drew a lot of comparisons to the James 30-30 season. If they're making explosive plays offensively, they're allowing their defense to be much more confident on the field, give them more rest, and they're doing that. I mean, Mike Evans had the most blatant offensive pass interference called, but it didn't get called, so he has a 70-yard catch there, and Mike Evans had a huge game, like 671
and a touchdown.
Yeah. So.
But it's like they're distributing it too.
Yeah, like Godwin's getting his targets.
Otton's getting his targets.
Rachaad White's fine in the run game. They're putting the pieces together, and they know they have weapons, and they're letting Baker kind of just go to them, kind of relentlessly, and it's honestly working out.
It's reminding me of Oklahoma Baker. I think
it's reminding me of first-year Cleveland Baker, in my opinion. Like, granted, they had Chubb in that offense, but like the OBJ Jarvis Landry thing that they had in Cleveland there his first year. But they're winning football games and Baker's playing confident football. He hasn't really done that since the Thursday night game in LA.
With the
His
Ravens,
first start that they won. I believe that was against the Raiders.
Yep.
So, he hasn't played this good in a while. And I know I dogged Baker in Cleveland, but coming into the season, I thought he was underrated. People were saying he was one of the 3 worst starting quarterbacks in football. I never really felt that way.
No, because like you can count on 2 hands almost he's better than.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like
if he plays like a top 15 to 20 quarterback in football, Tampa's gonna win more than the 6.5 they were projected for to start the season. Their line's already flipped up to 8.5. They're already 2-0. So they're predicted to win 6.5 more games for the rest of the year, and they're already sitting at 2 wins. They could very easily win this division with how terrible New Orleans offenses looked, and we're gonna get to them in a minute. How god awful Carolina is, and I think the wrench in this entire thing is Atlanta, who we just talked about, but Tampa's front 7 I think draws great matchups for them, and how aggressive this Todd Bowles defense is. If they can create turnovers and make the game easier for Baker, which the weapons are already doing, Tampa's going to win a lot of football games this year.
Exactly, and I think it's going to be a big test next week. They play Philly on Monday Night Football. I think that's where you're going to you're either going to see Baker play well or you're going to see Baker of old.
Yep.
And see if Philly can get after him, but we'll see what happens.
Yep. And one more thing on the Fields thing too, real quick.
Yeah, we
can
always talk about Justin
Fields. I think with the field stuff, he's making the really simple things really complicated.
Yes.
And you can see in the pocket the gears turning.
Grinding.
Yeah. And they're turning to the point where it's taking so long that the only option for him left to do is run. I mean, there's a play that's all over Instagram. DJ Moore 5-yard out with a verticals concept on the side and to hit the seam. And the seam is DJ Moore is wide open for the
seam is butt naked.
And the seam is wide open for a 30-yard touchdown. He misses Moore, he misses the seam, eats the sack. And it's like
it's 2 reads.
It's 2 reads, but it's way too slow and he's being way too lackadaisical in the pocket. It's like the drop backs, they're not even 5-step drop backs. They're taking way too long. He's not getting into any form of looking to pass, and if it is, it's a very small check down.
It feels like it's always let's run.
Yeah.
And it's like that's fine if you're gonna win games.
And it's like the first read, his first read is where's the hole. It's not even what receiver is open. And DJ Moore, granted, had 6 for 107 this game, but it's
outside of DJ Moore, it was 10 for 100.
He didn't look this bad this year. Last year when they were losing all those games, that he didn't look this bad passing wise. He looks worse this year passing wise, and the running numbers aren't nearly to the level as what they were because he's not balancing himself out. He's not helping himself in any of these situations. We just said, he's way more dynamic in the run game. But if you don't have any passing threat to take those safeties out of the box, he's not going to be doing much for a while.
No, exactly. The other game that almost threw a wrench in the park. Yeah. The Giants barely beat Arizona 31-28. I can't tell if Arizona is like sneakily good. They're just not going to win any games this year.
Arizona's not good.
Or the 2 teams they've played are dog shit. Hence the New York Football Giants. Those were probably the 6 worst quarters of football I have ever watched.
Me too.
68-0.
The stats would agree with you because 60-0.
60, sorry.
And I don't think any team has given up 60 points for their team scoring. I believe the stat was since like 1938.
God damn, that's a long time.
I didn't even know if the NFL was around in 1938.
I mean, it was probably like 12, maybe 10 teams.
Yeah.
Leather helmet.
The AFL?
Yeah, it would have been more like the AFL.
Yeah, they've been through the first 6 quarters. They're historically bad. However,
that second half,
whatever Michael's secret stuff they drank at halftime clearly worked. And I don't know. I heard rumor that Dayball was calling the plays in the second half, not Kafka. I heard just an abundance of things
I kind of believe the first one.
that swung the game in the direction. I do believe the first one, which I felt like Dayball was calling the plays last year, and why he turned those duties over to Kafka makes no sense to me because through the first 6 quarters, that offense, like he should be fired for how bad that offense
I mean, we
looked.
talk about how bad Matt Canada is, but like,
Jesus Christ. That's some of the worst football I've seen in my life. And they were getting torched by Arizona. And
they're letting Josh Dobbs cook
yeah, they were
and
like
James Conner.
They couldn't tackle James Conner. The Giants look like they signed Bobby Okereke, who damn near led the league in tackles last year, if I'm not mistaken, and has been up there in tackle leaders over the past few years. They have a good tackling safety duo. Their
Their
corners,
defense is good.
they invested in their defense. Their line is still good. Like Thibodeau hasn't shown up. Dexter Lawrence hasn't really shown up. Okereke hasn't shown up.
Leonard
He's just
Williams hasn't shown
Leonard
up.
Williams. Okereke is drawing 15-yard penalties like they're like eating Snickers bars. It's ridiculous how many 15-yard penalties he's drawing. He had like 3 against Arizona because he can't guard 35-year-old Zach Ertz in man coverage. And the Giants' defense was brutal to watch in the first half, but that's because the offense is just out there 3-and-out turnover every single time they're right back on the field, and you can't have that.
Especially in that dry Arizona.
So once you saw the Giants' offense find any form of stability, the 53-yard ball to Jalen Hyatt, instant Daniel Jones rushing touchdown after that, the entire game flipped on its head because the Giants defense then instantly forces a 3-and-out, and then all of a sudden you have a brand new ball game.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what happened in this game. Arizona felt really pressured. They don't have a quarterback that can really handle that. Wink finally started sending pressure, which I don't know why it took him 6 quarters to do that and to help out his rookie corner and Adoree Jackson. I don't know why it took him 6 quarters to finally really send heat. But once he sent it, it worked. Dobbs couldn't pick it up. And then you saw the Giants kind of envelop into this comfort zone offensively and defensively, where the defense wasn't out there every single play of every quarter, basically, and the offense could develop and put together some drives.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the big thing now going forward, I mean, it's 1-1, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna have Saquon for 4 weeks. Ish.
At least 3. Yep, at least 3.
And I don't know what this offense really is without Saquon.
It's nothing.
So it's like it's all gonna be put on Daniel Jones. So I don't think this is gonna get by any means easier for Giants fans.
Especially, I mean, San Fran. The day this podcast will be coming out on Thursday, so San Fran tonight. In my opinion, it's gonna get ugly. Not to preview ahead, but if this offense looks anything like it did in the first half of this Arizona game, that San Fran game is gonna look a lot like the Dallas game. If this offense is gonna be anything of what it was in the second half, you could see them putting up 13 to 17 points and maybe keeping it within 20.
Exactly. You want to transition to the Niners since you talked about
Sure.
it? Niners Rams. The Niners still look really good.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Rams look okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have Matt Stafford
Elaborate.
throwing it 55 times.
Yeah.
But like Puka Nakua's come out of nowhere and played spectacular for this offense. The running game is non-existent, so that's why they're throwing it 55 times.
And they're playing from behind.
Exactly. They're playing behind the whole game. I mean, Brock Purdy was conservative, 206, 8 incompletions. McCaffrey looked unstoppable at times in this game. And I think that's really where the difference was. I think San Francisco just had way bigger plays and way bigger momentum swings that kind of just kept the Rams that little gap away.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and San Francisco just could never shut the door in this game. So many missed opportunities on third down. Purdy actually missed a lot of throws. A lot of throws. He missed Debo wide open on a seam with about 6 minutes left, which would have been a 14-point game. That would have iced the entire game. He misses that throw. San Francisco has to sell for 3. It's still 10-point game. And the Rams just couldn't get anything in that drag, and the defense came up clutch. But I think for San Francisco, this game, you gotta be able to close the door earlier there.
Mhm.
This game should have been 41-20. But they played like it should have been 41-20, and all the calls were there. Shanahan is developing into, I think, the best coach in the league. This offense, when you look at play calling, when you look at expected yards on runs and expected yards on dropbacks, San Francisco is dominating every other team in the league in terms of those statistics so far through 2 weeks. Their O-line is terrific. They're probably they're the best team in the league right now through 2.
Yeah, it's definitely, yeah. That's not an overreaction. I think that's a very
I
valid
think
statement.
that's a legit fact through 2 weeks. San Francisco is the best team in the league. And then it's probably Dallas at 2. But I think for LA, Nakua getting 20 targets is just mind blowing.
But he's making so many plays.
He's making a ton of plays. He played the last drive really banged up. So we'll see what happens with him this week in practice in terms of his injury status. They have an extra day of rest. They play Cincy Monday night. So I think that's big. But yeah, you can't have Stafford throwing 55 passes and be behind this entire game. Dahl made plays here and there, but there's not enough studs on this defense anymore for San Francisco to be a legit Super Bowl contender or anything like that. They're kind of just in such a weird spot
You
when
mean
you look
Rams?
at the Rams. Sorry, did I say San Francisco? My apologies. Yeah, Los Angeles. They're just such in a weird spot as a franchise because they don't have a ton of draft picks. There's no real draft capital there, and we're in the waning years of Stafford. Yet he's kind of just sticking around, and it seems like they're really just destined to be like a 7-10 team this year and
Yeah.
be okay with it. And it's not a spot you want to be in, but we're in some transition years here for LA to whether they're probably going to be trading Stafford at the end of the season for value and for draft capital, and they're going to start cashing in on some younger talent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's transition to maybe the sleeper of the week. I was so happy I didn't have to watch this game. Dallas wins 30-10 over the New York Jets. Outside of one big Jets play, the Jets look terrible. The defense looks great. Micah Parsons is a dog. Sorry, a lion on the prowl. And CeeDee Lamb looked unstoppable. The running game wasn't there as much for Dallas this week, but I think
carries 72 for Pollard.
Yeah, around that. I think obviously that'll pick up. I just think the Jets have a great front seven, and maybe that kind of threw us a little off guard for the Cowboys. But I mean, CeeDee Lamb cooked. Dak looked fine. The defense was great again.
Yeah.
Again, there's not much I can take out of the Cowboys this week. I'm not going to get much next week, and I'm not going to get the much after that until week 5.
San Fran.
Yep, week 5 San Fran is when we'll really see what this Cowboys team is.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets offensively, we knew coming in they weren't going to do a damn thing coming into this game with Zach Wilson running. And he's honestly like, I'm sure he's still in kind of a weird mental state, not because I bet he wasn't expecting to play a freaking drive this entire year. So, and then for him to have to go up against Buffalo's defense, who's top 10 in the league, and then follow Dallas, who with Parsons healthy is the best defense in the league statistically last year when Parsons, the first like 12 weeks when Parsons was healthy last year, they were the best defense in the league. Parsons is easily the favorite for DPOY right now, except for maybe TJ Watt. There's going to be a lot of debate. If Watt stays healthy, that's going to be a really fun race to watch. But
especially among the 3 best.
What Parsons is doing among this front 7 in Quinn's scheme,
he did the Myles Garrett. He toyed with them with the little jab and then just went.
It's ungodly what he is doing to offensive lines right now, especially since they're really lining him up in the A gap a lot, and he is just feasting on interior linemen. Yeah, Dallas's defense is insane. I still haven't learned a damn thing about McCarthy's offense.
Yep.
And that is worrying me.
Yep.
I will say that's the thing I know Dallas's freaking point differential 60 through 2 games.
But that's all. I think it's all the defense.
But I think that's 75 to 80% the defense's creation. I think Dak not turning the ball over is good. But the yards per carry for Pollard was not great. Lamb has been, of course, fantastic. He's CeeDee Lamb. He's a top 10 receiver in the league. But what I haven't learned a single thing about McCarthy's play calling, how good this offense really is. And honestly, we're sure as hell not going to learn anything week 3. Like you said, most likely not week 4. San Francisco is going to be the true test week 5. And if Dallas is just kind of cruising into week 4, I'll probably pick San Francisco to win that game by double digits.
Yeah, I totally agree. They started with an easy schedule, and then it gets rough.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna enjoy these first 4 weeks,
As
and
you
then
should.
we'll see where it goes from there. Let's
you
put it
should.
that way. Washington, Denver.
How about the
Commanders
Hail
win by
Mary?
2.
Let's talk about the final 2 plays of the game.
Yes, shall we? What the hell were the Commanders secondary just doing, letting that hit like a volleyball? Granted, I mean Russ got it down there. It was a 60+ yard throw, which
And he had to throw it like this.
yeah, pretty much like off his back foot, like
Yeah.
an incredible throw. That's where the baseball in Russell Wilson kind of comes
Yeah.
out. How do you let some random bozo catch that football? What's his name?
Brandon Jackson.
Brandon Jackson. Who? And then Russ has a wide open Cortland Sutton for the 2-point conversion. Doesn't throw it to him.
Judy.
Sorry, Judy. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
Judy.
Doesn't throw it to him. Grant, the guy he threw it to, which I believe was Cortland Sutton. Definitely was probably some pass interference there. Not called. But
one of the most blatant missed PI calls of the week.
that's a good way to put it.
It was atrocious.
But that's how Denver loses.
Mm-hmm.
In a game where they were up a lot of the game.
Mm-hmm.
They controlled the game. This is the game where I was like, man, the Sean Payton offense.
Yeah.
33,
Russ looked good.
30-something points. Yeah, Russ had 308, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he played fine. Sam Howell kind of same deal, 299 and 2.
Yep.
The quarterbacks played fine.
Yeah.
And there was big plays all over the field. It just kind of came down to, I thought whoever had the ball last was going to win this game, especially how that end of the third, fourth quarter was going.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't true in the end of the day.
Yeah, really weird stuff here. Wilson played really well. This loss is not on him. This loss is actually on Denver's defense.
Yep.
Not being able to get a stop on Brian Robinson. Bieniemy's run game looked really potent in this game. I thought Brian Robinson was terrific.
And that makes me feel good for fantasy.
18 for 87, 2 touchdowns. Sam Howell didn't turn the ball over, so that's a huge beneficiary when you're trying to come back.
Exactly, and he was making those throws, that deep shot, that post in
to
McLaurin for the 35-yarder, I think it was
30. Yeah.
Dot.
Yeah.
Over to a safety in a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Great throw.
Yeah, great throw. And what I really liked about Peyton's offense is how aggressive it was.
Mm-hmm.
The week before you saw how god awfully conservative and just like how like shrunk it was. Exactly. It felt like they were just like surrounding the line of scrimmage the whole time. And they finally extended it. Marvin Mims Jr. had 2 catches, but 114 yards and a touchdown.
Was it 114?
I think it was 114. Could be wrong.
Oh, damn, 113.
113.
Damn, Bailey, come on.
But has 2 massive plays in the game that really swing the momentum.
60-yard touchdown.
Yeah, 60-yard touchdown. And there's got to be more Judy in this offense. And granted, his first game back, but I'm expecting to see a lot more Jerry Jeudy in this offense sooner rather than later. I would expect, but they have a really tough matchup next week, and it's not getting much easier for Denver. And they played 2 games where they should be 2-0 right now, and they're sitting on the other side. They're sitting on the outside looking in.
Exactly. Miami, New England.
Yeah, Miami tried to give this game away.
Miami was looking to just hand it over
Mm-hmm.
because of the savageness and the grittiness of New England.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, what's the old saying? Speed kills.
Yeah.
And speed killed the New England Patriots in this game with the Raheem Mostert touchdown.
Yeah, Raheem Mostert was terrific. This is the best McDaniels run game has looked in maybe ever. I would say ever.
Because like New England's defense for the most part shut down Tyreek.
Yep.
And contained Jalen Waddle.
Mm-hmm.
So it really came down to that run game, and Mostert had a stellar game.
Yeah.
121 and 2.
Yeah, 121 and 2 on 18.
Yep.
Yeah, Mostert was absolutely phenomenal. This McDaniel run. The run fits that they were trying to get without Tua, now with Tua back, are now there. And it's really, really helping out because the absurd amount of speed that they have can really stretch the field. And it makes defenses, instead of playing compactor and more 20, 25-yard ranges, they got to play the 30, 35-yard ranges. And the linebackers are now back 5 yards. And that's going to really help out your run game with Hill and Waddle there. Of course, the motion, everything we've broken down about Miami. But they tried to give this game away at the end. Belichick did some really crafty things. The field goal block was insane.
Dude, the motion to a field goal block, just having the dude
It's
sit there,
genius.
like, because you get the gunner on that outside of the special teams for the PAT.
Yeah.
Like, he has to, like, reach out, and the dude's already at full speed.
Yeah.
It's like they took a Miami play where they have people in motion,
made
and they
it a
did it on
special
special teams
teams.
play, and
Yeah.
it changed the momentum of this game.
Yeah, it did. It completely altered the game. Sanders missed 2 field goals, and Miami kind of got boxed up in the last couple plays of the drive. But I think some people are overacting to Miami a little bit.
They're fine.
I think they're a very, very, very good team. I don't know if they're instantly the Super Bowl favorites to come out of the AFC. I wouldn't have them as high in the power rankings as most teams do. I do think they're the second or third best team in the AFC right now, especially with how Jacksonville looked against KC
And how Cincy's looked.
and how Cincy's looked and how KC offensively has looked. And right now they're the number 1 AFC team, but I would not pick them in a playoff scenario. They played a trash Chargers defense. They're a trash defense. On paper, they're fine. They are a trash defense.
And it's shown up the last 2 weeks.
And they played a very well coached, very fundamental Belichick defense, and they've won both those games in 2 different fashions. So I think that's really big.
And exactly, I think that's the scariest part of Miami
Mhm.
is Tua can throw for almost 500 yards in a game, but then turn around and they can have a run game to
Yep.
win a game. So
They don't
that's
need
what
Jonathan
exactly, and that's what makes them so scary right now. Again, I'm kind of with you. I'm not gonna overreact, but like the fact that they've won 2 games, not convincingly, but they've won 2 different fashions. I think they can almost match up with anyone, and I wouldn't rule them out in almost any match.
I mean, looking ahead, Denver next week at home, so they don't have to go to a cold place to play
Or a high altitude.
or high altitude. Then they get Buffalo earlier in the season where it's not cold, so that also favors Miami. Then they draw New York, the Giants who have been struggling, Carolina who's been struggling, and then their real test is Philly, week 7.
Then they got what, Philly, New England, and
Buffalo
KC
will be
again.
a very good game because they're playing Buffalo
Yeah.
and Buffalo still, but they don't have to play them in December when it's freezing cold, and you kind of see.
And hopefully without Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, and you see the field shrink a little bit in those games, and the pace of the game really slow down. You could see them realistically start out 6-0 going into Philly.
Yeah, I don't think that's a far stretch at all.
Yeah.
To the Monday nights. New Orleans, Carolina.
Jesus.
They both looked kind of bad.
Kinda.
They looked really bad, sorry.
Frank Reich's offense sucks. It sucks.
It doesn't help Bryce Young.
There's
He made 22 completions for only 153 yards.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, the yards per attempt is so low. Everything's a 5-yard check down. They had a drive where they got a first down, but their play on first down was a receiver screen to Thielen, -2 yards on a dive to Sanders, and then they audibled to a receiver screen to Thielen, the same play on the other side out of trips. And I was kind of just astonished that how bad their run game looks. Miles Sanders looks like he's taking his paycheck and just calling it quits. But this O-line is not helping.
No.
These weapons are not helping. Thielen's got to get 40% of the target share for this offense to do much of anything, which is what makes New Orleans defense look good. But they've played 2 garbage teams up front. Who they play week 1?
Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee. They played 2 garbage offensively schemed teams week 1 and week 2. I do think New Orleans defense is good. I don't think it's this good, and this offense is trash.
Not with your boy Derek
New
Carr.
Orleans, this offense is trash.
Come on. Taysom Hill ran great.
I think Kamara could help it out, but
He's
what they're
not 9 for 75.
I do not care. I do not care.
Derek Carr.
That's because Derek Carr is trash.
Yes.
Yes, Derek Carr is not good.
I just love bringing Derek Carr up.
I know, with me.
Yeah.
Not me, yeah. Derek Carr is bad, and he's missing Olave a ton, and they're force-feeding Michael Thomas, which I think is fine. Michael Thomas
You like
was
seeing that,
fantastic.
yeah.
I like how that's the thing I do like in their offense is Olave and Thomas are actually drawing split targets, which I think helps them out a ton.
Mhm.
And they are missing Kamara. Jamal Williams went down. but this run game is garbage, and Derek Carr he hasn't made a single good throw all year.
Other than like the Shaheed deep shot, but other than that, like
Yeah, he's not playing good football
no.
at all, and he's terrible on the road. Always has been terrible on the road. And if New Orleans can go 500 on the road, he plays fine at home most of the time. It's a really weird thing with him, but this New Orleans 2-0 in my opinion is not deserved. They have not looked good in any facet of the game so far, besides their ability to kick field goals is pretty impressive.
Fair. That's very fair. I'm not going to argue that with you. Yeah, I think it was kind of a snooze fest kind of a game. I agree. Carolina's offense looks terrible.
It's so pansy.
It's just like, dude, either let your number one overall pick air raid it like he did at Bama, or just run the damn ball. Like pick.
They can't run the ball though.
But then you have to throw it and like not 5-yard checkdowns.
Yeah.
You need like Thielen running the check down, and then someone running a deep fade.
There's gotta be crossers. There's nothing pushing any of the secondary back 5 yards.
No.
They can just press all game, which is makes the run game freaking terrible. But then, like none of these dudes can get open, and Bryce Young is having to throw balls in holes this big, and it's a near impossible task for him to do. They're going to be playing from behind in a lot of these games.
And he's not putting up the stats.
Especially JC Horn on IR for another 4 weeks. Again. And he's a really good corner when he plays.
One of the better ones.
Thompson's out for a while. Carolina's going to struggle.
Yeah, Carolina's not going to look good. And then let's wrap up the last Monday night game. I don't think there's much to talk about other than the Nick Chubb injury, unfortunately.
Talk about how god awful Deshaun Watson was.
Yeah, I worry about Cleveland. I really do, just because they are not the team that can now be running back by committee.
Well, it's Kareem Hunt now.
Kareem Hunt, yes, but like they always had the 1-2. And I don't think it's going to be the same 1-2 when you have a Kareem Hunt and Ford. Like, I just don't think it's going to be the same. So then you got to lean on Deshaun Watson, and he hasn't shown us anything.
Yeah.
To make me think, yep, they can lean on him to win games.
Yeah. I think, Chubb going down, it's probably
one of the worst injuries I've seen.
I'm slightly biased because I own him in like every single fantasy league I'm in. But, yeah, it's one of the worst injuries I've seen in my entire life. Such a dirty hit, like helmet straight to the kneecap. It's honestly uncalled for. That's just not how teams teach people to tackle. And granted, when you're in the heat of a game, it's different.
And when you have to tackle a guy like Nick Chubb,
and when you have to tackle such a strong, powerful back like Chubb, it gets really tough. But Cleveland is going to bear the brunt of this for the rest of Chubb's career is probably up in the air. I think as we sit right now.
I think that's a fair statement.
Because it's the same knee that of what happened to him in Georgia, ACL, MCL, PCL in Georgia. Now he has meniscus damage along with all of those things in that same knee. He's got a long rehab in front of him. And this run game, even though I think Kareem Hunt is a good back, I think he was a really good back 2 years ago. I think he's an okay back now. Because he hasn't seen the playing time, he's not going to be able to bear the brunt of 20 to 25 touches a week. That's simple. And they're going to use Jerome Ford probably as like the Nick Chubb kind of guy, and they're going to use Kareem Hunt how they used Kareem Hunt 2 years ago. But Watson played terribly. The first pick wasn't his fault. The first play of the game, the pick six, not his fault. But outside of that, he was freaking horrific. And
he barely played half his passes.
Pittsburgh took advantage.
Yeah.
Like Pittsburgh's defense is hungry. TJ Watt is just a turnover machine and is again the reason they won this game. Because Matt Canada, his offense is literally the worst in the league.
And that's saying something because Chicago has an offense.
Yeah, because Chicago's got an offense. Freaking Arizona exists this year, I think. So
maybe.
This Pittsburgh offense is god awful. It's so bad.
Like,
and why Tomlin doesn't ship that guy to Canada makes no sense to me.
And if you look outside of the 4 catches by George Pickens, he had a great game.
Mhm.
But like outside of that,
4 for 120 or whatever.
yeah, 4 for 127 and a touchdown. Outside of that, Kenny Pickett went 11 for under 100 yards.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
That's Justin Fields' numbers. That's worse.
That's Bryce Young. We're throwing near the line of scrimmage every play. Najee Harris has been terrible, and Jalen Warren should be seeing more touches instantly, which he was actually great this game. He had a ton of receiving yards. So
yeah, 4 for 66.
he's like their only explosive player offensively outside of George Pickens. Granted, Deontay Johnson's on IR, but why Tomlin hasn't moved Canada out, and why he just freaking bring Todd Haley back or something.
Clearly bring anyone. I think
Anyone.
almost anyone would be better.
Anyone. Bring you in there. Let's get you in there. Let's get you calling some plays.
I mean,
could drop better plays. than
Hey,
freaking
you
that.
saw me call that Willie Patterson touchdown against Weber State last year
Yeah.
in the playoff game. I said, "Oh,
Yes, you did.
watch this little reverse here."
Yeah. Yes, you did. The little flea flicker trick play.
Yes, sir.
And so it's like there's nothing new or innovative about Pittsburgh. Their defense is going to win them 8 games this year, and that's how Tomlin rolls, and that's how they're going to get down. We're not seeing any improvement from Pickett. Little improvement from Pickens. His line
Nothing
is still
from
not
Najee.
good, and Najee's literally getting worse, and he's 24.
Yep.
So
And their defense is so beat up after this game.
yeah.
No Cam Hayward.
Yep.
Minka's hurt.
Yep.
It's just T.J. Watt
Yeah.
and George Pickens at this
And
point.
Cleveland still couldn't take advantage of that. Granted,
How?
missing
Honestly.
Chubb, but
But like,
Cleveland still can't score. So
is it?
it was a really frustrating.
Do you think it's an overreaction that Stefanski could be on the hot seat? I just think this team's like so underperforming right now. I
Yeah.
get the Nick Chubb injury now is going to really throw things off, but like leading up to this, Deshaun Watson has not looked good.
Their passing game has to change.
Exactly, and that's what he was kind of known for in Minnesota there with
Mhm.
Keenum.
Yeah.
So it's just like, where did that go?
Mm-hmm.
I guess is kind of my question that. But I mean, if they start falling off a cliff, he's a 6-year head coach now for
Yeah.
the Browns. He'd be an easy one to ship, I think.
I agree.
All right, well, there's our reaction to week 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, shall we get into week 3?
Yes.
Oh, shout out to Bailey. He won the picks by a game because of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, 10-6, 11-5.
Yep.
I believe I'm 20-12 on the year. You're 19-13.
Yeah. So
Something like that.
not too bad.
Yeah.
Hey, we're picking good. All right.
I can double check as well. Yep, that's correct. 2012, 1913.
Look at this guy. Come on now. Show this man some respect now. Let's get into week 3.
Yes.
We'll start with the easiest pick of the week. Giants
Thursday night.
Niners on Thursday Night Football.
There's easier ones.
Mm,
There's easier ones.
Okay, the second easiest game to pick this week, the Niners Giants.
San Francisco. In a landslide.
The San Francisco by 17 plus. Like
Yeah.
I just
No Barkley. Daniel Jones is going to be pressured all night, which is when he plays his absolute worst football.
this could be the Daniel Jones of old.
This game will be over halfway through the second quarter. Literally the stuff that I like betting in these kind of games with large spreads isn't even available to bet in this game because for example, first half money lines I love I get good teams against bad teams and I can get them at a decreased value. Those still aren't even worth putting on this year because it's still San Fran or this week because it's still San Fran minus 345. So there is very all the McCaffrey anytime touchdowns minus 250 in this game, which is insane. So unless you're going to be betting a just absolutely enormous spread on San Francisco, 15 plus points, I would stay away. But San Francisco's freaking slaughter these guys.
I will be so happy.
I don't care about any of the momentum they picked up in that Arizona game. They played Arizona.
They played Arizona and no Saquon.
Yeah, and now no Saquon. This game's going to be over halfway through the second quarter. I look forward to watching Raging Bull tomorrow night. Good boxing movie.
Very nice. Good call.
Or tonight. Yeah.
Fair. Yeah, who knows? Colts Ravens.
Mhm.
Ravens are favored by 7.5. I think this is Baltimore.
Yep.
Especially because if Richardson doesn't play, I really don't see how Indy stands a chance, even though Minshew looked okay.
Yep.
I just think Baltimore's a better team.
Yeah, Baltimore's way better here. I'm also going Baltimore. I feel like maybe to mix these picks up, we could do more spreads, but from the bigger spread games, we pick the spreads. Yeah, Baltimore easy here. Just Mark Andrews coming back from this offense is going to give him so much more life, I feel like. And I actually don't mind the looks that is it Mencken, the new offensive coordinator there, is giving him. Harbaugh's still one of the 6 or 7 best coaches in the league. They're going to outcoach Shane Steichen, especially if Richardson doesn't play. This run game is going to get bottled up quickly. So
Yeah,
I expect Baltimore to have the lead early and hold it.
exactly. Tennessee, Cleveland.
Yes.
Cleveland, 3.5. This is tough.
Are you switching up on me?
No, I don't think so.
Hunt does know the offense.
We both went Tennessee, right?
Yes.
I'm just gonna stick with that because I don't trust Deshaun Watson. I don't trust Ryan Tannehill, but at least I've seen something out of Ryan Tannehill this year. So I'll go Tennessee.
This game is going to be 13-10. The biggest play in this game will most likely be like 18 yards. It's going to be terrible. I will try not to watch this game. It'll probably be close though, come down to the fourth quarter, and then I'll have it on. This is going to be a struggle fest, not only for Tennessee but also for Cleveland. I'm picking Tennessee here. I just don't trust Watson. Stefanski's gonna have to. I think Vrabel's just gonna outcoach Stefanski to a T in this game, and Tennessee is dogs. Vrabel's 24-9 against the spread, and they end up winning most of those games. So I'm gonna go Tennessee here.
Yeah, for sure. Denver, Miami.
Miami. Next.
Denver's been fine. Miami's just
Why is
better.
the spread only 6.5?
No clue.
I have no idea. Miami is going to slaughter Denver Sunday morning. It's going to be an absolute ass kicking up and down the field. The spread should probably be closer to like the Jacksonville-Houston spread.
Yeah, exactly. Patriots, Jets. Patriots.
Yeah, this one's interesting. This is going to be a lot like the Tennessee Cleveland game, I think. A lot of trash offense in this game, a lot of high caliber defense, making mediocre offense look really bad. I think the big thing is what defense scores a touchdown, and that's going to be the team who wins this game. And more likely than not, it's going to be Belichick against Zach Wilson than it is going to be Robert Saleh against Mac Jones. So, give me New England. Basically every day of the week. New England's also won the last 8 games against the Jets. They own the Jets historically, so I don't expect anything to change here. Belichick's going to drop. He doesn't even need incredibly complex schemes to fool Zach Wilson.
Exactly. He can run his basic stuff and kind of just be fine. Bills.
It will be a close game though.
I think it will be close.
So it'll be a field goal game most likely, but it's gonna be like 14-11. It's gonna be something really
It's
weird.
gonna be like the game last year where it was just all field goals.
Yeah, the Marcus Jones punt return touchdown. Yep.
Bills, Commanders.
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Why are we debating this?
Buffalo Bills. They're only favored 6.5. House way.
I would be betting that.
Yeah. Falcons, Lions. I think Lions. It's just I haven't seen anything out of Atlanta that scares me. However, Bijan against this defense could be something.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to watch out for.
Especially if Hutchinson doesn't show up.
Exactly. And again, I think Atlanta's defense could contain Detroit's offense enough with AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates.
Yep.
And that front seven's fine.
Bates has played phenomenally through 2 weeks.
So I will take the Detroit, but I think it will also be a very close game.
Yeah, I debated this one in my head for a while. God. I just don't think Atlanta's that good, to be straight up.
And they haven't played great.
Bijan could have 200 rushing yards this game. Wouldn't shock me. Bijan could have 200 yards in this game and they could still lose.
Yeah.
That wouldn't shock me either. Jared Goff, honestly played really good football against Seattle. He played decent football against Kansas City. I actually thought he played better against Seattle, even though he had the one pick. Um, Ben Johnson's offense is just so much better than Arthur Smith's offense. I cannot stress this enough. And Terrell will, I don't even know if he'll be lining up against Amon-Ra St. Brown. He'll probably actually be a lot of Josh Reynolds. And just trying to take away other options for them. So I think Amon-Ra could have a really big game. Jeff Okudah revenge game.
Ooh, shit.
I'm still going to
Stop the presses. It's Jeff Okudah next. Saints Packers. I just think Green Bay's better. They're at home. Like you said, Derek Carr struggles on
You're
the
going
road.
Green Bay now.
I think I'm going to go Green Bay.
Interesting. Well, all the things I said, slaughtering New Orleans, I'm picking New Orleans.
Fair. I do think New Orleans defense will give the Packers fits.
Yeah. If Aaron Jones comes back, that could sway my pick. If Christian Watson plays, that could also sway my pick. But I kind of draw what happened 2 years ago when New Orleans kind of just walked in there and just gave them the business.
Yeah.
Granted, Drew Brees was playing in that game. But New Orleans knows how to play in Lambeau. Dennis Allen knows how to stop Matt LaFleur. I do not think this is a good coaching matchup for LaFleur. He's had real problems, honestly, dealing with the NFC South over the past couple of years. So I kind of expect Dennis Allen to drop a really good game plan, New Orleans defense to be locked down, and Derek Carr to play good enough football with the weapons that he has to where they should win this game.
Yeah, I mean, Green Bay does have a lot of injuries, but I think with the Christian Watson not playing for 2 weeks, he'll probably be back.
Yep, he practiced.
Yeah,
last
exactly.
Friday,
Aaron
so-
Jones, I think, also is practicing this week.
Yep.
And Bakhtiari should be practicing this week.
Mhm.
Rashad Gary, I think, is practicing this week. I think he has been.
No.
Come on, Mr. No one who's practicing.
I don't know.
But I just think they'll all probably come out and play. It's a home game. I think that's why I'm going to switch my pick. I just think they're all going to come back. I'm banking it off of they're coming back from injuries this week, or at least some of them.
Yep.
Jacksonville, Houston. Jacksonville. Next, Panthers, Seahawks.
Expect Stroud to have a crap ton of passing yards in the third and fourth quarter.
Because it'll be done by halftime.
Yep.
Panthers, Seahawks. Like
Yeah.
Carolina always struggles in Seattle.
Tariq Woolen's already out.
That's not a good look.
Which is not good for Seattle because especially that secondary is not fantastic. It's not terrible, but it's not fantastic. But they depend a lot on Woolen's speed and athleticism. But there's no reason that Seattle shouldn't just absolutely box this one of the worst offenses in the league, if not the worst offense in the league right now in Carolina. So, or Pittsburgh, one of the two. Honestly, take your freaking pick.
Or Chicago.
Or Chicago, yeah. Those three are like in their own tier of just garbage.
Because like
offense.
Houston's offense is bad, but they at least put up numbers at the end of games.
Yeah, like they're at least like coming back and making runs at covering spreads and things like that. Those offenses aren't doing that. So, like those offenses that we just mentioned, they're taking their teams out of games. So, at least Houston's offense is trying to like put them back in the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is gonna be
not gonna be pretty.
Not good for Carolina. I don't think I like Seattle a lot here.
Another team we like a lot. I won't even save my breath. Bears, Chiefs. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say going back on the Carolina game real quick, maybe the tackles do show themselves a little bit because Carolina's front seven is good. So if Gino can't find time, it might be a closer matchup. If I were to bet it, I'd try to get the spread down to a field goal. But that could draw some stuff for this run game and this pass game. Seattle's offense could be a little bit more steady, but they should still win that game. And yeah, KC's gonna absolutely freaking thrash Chicago.
Yeah. I think going off the Carolina thing real quick, they contain Hutchinson. I think they'll be fine with Brian Burns because Brian Burns hasn't really made any noise this year. So
yep.
I think they'll be fine there. But yeah, KC next. Steelers, Raiders.
Skipping Dallas, Arizona.
Oh, I forget. They're always start up here. I forget.
Well,
I could have forgotten, and you would have known our pick. Dallas is going to absolutely slaughter the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. And we're skipping Chargers, Vikings.
Oh shit.
Also your favorite.
Start.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you share accounts with your brother.
Yeah.
Vikings fan, yeah.
My game of the week.
Ooh, okay.
My game of the week.
Elaborate.
It's a pick 'em right now. Basically, Minnesota's -1. This is two teams that know how to lose games at a historic rate and in the most weird ways ever conceived in human history. The Chargers have lost games when teams were looking for ties. So,
Yeah.
and Minnesota's lost games on 24-yard field goals. So expect just a lot of freaking mayhem to
You think it's
happen
gonna
in
be a
this
little
game.
sloppy?
I think it's going to be sloppy to the tune of both teams might score 40.
Fair.
I have LA in this game.
I also have LA.
The Vikings just can't. Neither of these teams can not get in their own way, which is why this game will most likely go to overtime. There's
Damn.
going to be a lot of 30-27 field goal wins, it kind of stuff. I think it's gonna be really entertaining, but as a Vikings fan, it's gonna be a freaking pain in the ass to watch. Expect Herbert to go nutty. Expect Jefferson to go insane. Expect Cousins to go insane. But
Eckler will have a game.
also expect turnovers. Also expect sloppiness. Also expect mistakes that are gonna cost
This
teams.
might be the classic 3 touchdowns, 3 picks.
Not 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. Like 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, but like going for it on fourth when you shouldn't. Really weird, different ways to lose games that are going to be repetitive over and over in this game that you're not going to expect. This could honestly be the most exciting game of the year
Fair.
in the most weird and awkward of ways.
That's very fair. Yeah. Chargers. I just like the Chargers more because I
trust Justin Herbert.
I trust Justin Herbert over Kirk Cousins.
I trust O'Connell way more than I trust Brandon Staley.
That's what's so tough.
Yeah.
Do you take the coaching matchup or do you take the quarterback matchup?
Mm-hmm.
In this instance, I'm going to take the quarterback matchup because I think Herbert will have a field day. I think Keenan Allen will have a field day. I think Mike Williams will have a great game.
Yeah.
And they're going to
Eckler.
probably get Austin Eckler back. So it's like,
For me, I'm expecting Kellen Moore to cover up the mistakes for LA offensively. Defensively is where I expect the Chargers to F up a little bit. But Minnesota's been effing up offensively a ton recently. 7 turnovers through 2 games. It's literally costed them 2 wins.
Yep.
They should have beat Philadelphia and they should have beat Tampa. So, if the Chargers make one defensive stop this game, they most likely win.
Fair enough. Steelers, Raiders.
Steelers.
I'm going to Raiders.
Why?
Jimmy Garoppolo knows how to win games, and I don't trust Matt Canada's offense.
I don't trust Canada's offense either. I definitely trust TJ Watt.
But that's the other thing that scares me too. It's only TJ Watt, and I get that, but like Minka is probably not going to play. Cam Hayward isn't going to play.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as I think the Raiders are going in a little more healthy, and I trust the Raiders offense more than I do Pittsburgh's right now.
I honestly agree with all those points, but
it's TJ Watt. I get it.
It's TJ Watt in primetime. And
I do Uno reverse card and say Max Crosby.
I just don't see Crosby making the same impact. And
that's fair.
And Adams is definitely going to do work in this game. He's definitely going to produce. But Jacobs has been freaking terrible through 2 weeks. He's literally been one of like the 5 or 6 worst running backs in the league. He had -2 rushing yards last week. Granted, they were losing the entire game. He had -2 yards and then had 2.5 yards to carry against Denver.
This is what happens when you don't want to play for a team. When a team pisses someone off. I'm just saying.
Exactly. Hunter Renfrow isn't showing up. They get no production out of their tight ends. And I do not trust Jimmy G against this defense. Tomlin is just going to outcoach the. I'm basically betting on Mike Tomlin to beat Josh McDaniels in this game.
Very fair.
And I expect defensive abuse from Pittsburgh on Vegas's offense, which will lead them to somehow scoring 24 points.
Valid point. I'm not going to argue.
I think 21 points wins this game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think anything over 20 wins this.
Yep.
So we'll just see what offense or defense makes the most points.
Daniel Carlson could have 18 points on 6 field goals, though. That could also happen.
It could be 21-18, and it's just all field goals.
Yeah.
You got 2 really good kickers in this game, I'll tell you that much.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to my game of the week. I think Philly and Tampa will be my game of the week.
Really?
Here's where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm.
I think we both agree Philly's going to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tampa's front seven is going to give the Philly offense some trouble.
Mhm.
Just because they haven't looked as sharp. Granted, they're going to have 11 days to game plan. I do think they might come out a little sloppy. I'm not saying it's going to cost them
Definitely.
that much, but
Definitely.
why I'm picking Philly, I think Philly's defense will have a heyday with Baker at times.
Mhm.
But I think this is going to be a really big defensive game. I think
So you
it could
think
be low
-5
scoring.
is the right line?
I think -5 is about the right line. I just think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be a really good defensive game. I just think when you break it down, what quarterback do I trust more in this matchup? And it's Jalen Hurts
Or Baker Mayfield.
or Baker Mayfield. And I'll take Jalen Hurts every day of the week. Another thing to look for, though, is if Baker is making his throws, you're going to see big games like Justin Jefferson did against this Philly defense from a Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. So that's a little thing. I think this looks very familiar.
Preferably Godwin, actually.
Exactly. I think this is very similar to the Philly-Minnesota game. I just think Philly will win, but I think it'll be more low scoring than that Philly-Minnesota game.
Okay. Yeah. The thing for me here, what you saw Philly do against Minnesota is you just saw their strengths just absolutely dominate in every facet, especially that line. And you saw Minnesota's D-line get trampled. I don't see as much this week, but what I do see is where Tampa is strong, Philly is stronger with their counters. And I think Philly's O-line is better than Tampa's front seven. Even though I'm not a big fan of Sirianni, I think Sirianni is a much better head coach than Todd Bowles, even though I do think Todd Bowles is a really good DC. But Tampa's going to get really aggressive defensively, and Philly's going to make them pay for it, I think, over and over again. I think this is a big A.J. Brown week. He's been lackluster through 2 weeks. They're going to look to really get him going, especially with the little tantrum he threw on the sideline. But I think tantrum is probably the wrong word there. I think that's going to motivate Sirianni to get him the ball more.
He only has that dog in him.
They've been really passive with him this year so far, which has been surprising. I think you're going to see him feast on Carlton Davis this week on the outside. But I think the big matchup to watch is Slay on Evans on the other side.
Yep.
Bradbury might be out this week. They lost Devontae Maddox. I know they brought in a corner. God, I forget who it is. They brought in a free agent corner. Now I'm gonna have to scout because it's gonna drive me nuts. But the matchup to watch is Evans Slay on the outside, and Godwin's gonna get his mismatches if there's no Bradbury. You're gonna look to see him take advantage of those. Look for they still have Brian Leftwich?
Yes.
So I'm gonna have to look that up too. But look for them to target Godwin more in this game. Is basically the gist of what I'm saying here. You're gonna see Slay make a ton of plays in this game on Evans. I just don't think Evans is gonna be able to create the separation on Slay. Philly's D line is gonna shred Tampa's O line, which is already hurting up the middle. And I think Jalen Carter's gonna have a big game. I think Philly's going to get in a position to where they're going to force Baker to make plays because this run game's not going to work.
Mhm.
It's going to be really stagnant, and I think Philly I could see this game getting out of hand quick for Tampa, even though I do like Tampa as a team.
Yeah, for sure. Here's your corner list. Tell me which one. Is it Maddox?
No, Max just went on IR. It might have been Eli Ricks. It was a UDFA. One of those two. It was Ricks or Ringo. Ringo definitely got drafted. One of the two.
Yeah. One of the younger Alabama corners, because didn't Ringo went to Georgia.
Yeah, Ringo went to Georgia.
But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think this will be a good game though.
Dave Canales is now the offensive coordinator in Tampa. So
Who?
no Leftwich.
Who?
No idea. Never heard of him.
Dave Canales?
Dave Canales.
David Canales?
Yes.
Intriguing.
Learn something new every day.
Look how much research we do on the fly. Last Monday night game, maybe we'll touch on this a little bit right now. I don't like the 2 Monday nights. I know it's only like the first couple weeks they do it.
I also hate it.
I hate it because they're at the same goddamn time. There's an hour difference maybe, and they're flipping back and forth between 2 games.
And one game's always ahead of the other one. How is that possible?
I hate it.
It's annoying. It's really annoying.
NFL, do something. Please. I'm fine with it being the first week because you're really trying to showcase the Monday night.
Multiple weeks in a row is ridiculous.
This is ridiculous because then it's Rams-Bengals. We're both going Rams with the assumption Joe Burrow's not playing.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow plays, I think it'll still be a close game, and the Rams could probably still win this game just because of how bad they have looked with Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
But
Also, I think
if Burrow doesn't play, it'll be a good Rams.
Either way, I'm taking LA.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Donald is going to be
game record. This could be the game.
Is going to be a force to be reckoned with this game. He's going to destroy that interior line of Cincy. And I just don't trust Jake Browning against, honestly, a very veteran coach team in McVay and Raheem Morris, who's still the DC there. And we've seen Raheem Morris put together, he's honestly one of the more underrated coaches in the league.
Mm-hmm.
They've had to scheme and piece together through injury and trade and really bad offense last year, and they've had to piece together really good defensive seasons, and they have. And you're going to see Joe Mixon get shut down early and often. You're going to see Nakua get a freaking buttload of targets with Tutu Atwell until it comes back. And if Stafford is upright, this Rams team is good. This Rams team is good if Stafford can stay on his feet and they can play with just, if they're in striking range of the game, they're dangerous. So I expect LA to win this game, honestly, fairly handedly on Monday night.
Dang, fairly handedly. Yeah. I think that's a first.
I would say a touchdown.
I'll give him at least, I think a field goal. I think Cincy will find a way if Burrow's playing to make it close, but
I just don't see how Cincy exploits their matchups if either Burrow or Browning is playing this game. Like, how are they getting Chase and Higgins open? I don't know. Because they haven't really been getting open. The two plays that Higgins made for touchdowns were not open touchdowns. They were contested catches.
Yeah.
So I just don't see what Zach Taylor's been doing this year offensively. I think he's gone from one of the better. I thought he was terrible his first year going towards ACL. I thought he was awful. Granted, not in an ideal situation. Thought he got better the last year. One coach of the year, one of the last 2 years here, and has kind of gone back to waywardness. So I don't know how to feel about Zach Taylor in this offense, and I expect this defense to kind of feast on it, on a team they shouldn't feast on. Cincy has weapons, but I just can't do anything with what they've shown me the first 2 weeks. The Rams have shown me actually a ton of life, and much more life than I was expecting, and I want to ride the hot hand in that.
And that's very fair. They've looked fine the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Their big win over Seattle opened the year, and then they hung with the Niners for 3 quarters, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely like the Rams in this matchup, too. You've really convinced me. Because at the beginning, when I was like, maybe Cincy, but I agree. The hot hand right now is the Rams compared to Cincy. Cincy's looked off. Yeah, ride with the Rams. Whose house? Rams' house.
Yeah.
But speaking on the Rams, we'll kind of touch on this at the end here. Cam Akers gets shipped to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Your reaction as a Vikings fan?
Happy. This was kind of the suspicions I had of Madison getting 20 to 25 touches a week. You saw it work in the weeks that Dalvin wasn't there because teams were game planning for Dalvin, and Madison runs in a different style. Like they say in boxing, styles make fights. And Madison's a little more powerful. Dalvin's much more elusive, much quicker, and doesn't have a fumble problem. So now we're taking basically a 7th round pick or a 6th round pick, and we're getting a 7th and Cam Akers back. It's basically a free chance to get a brand new running back, get some life in this offense, and it gives Cam Akers a brand new chance to prove himself again. And I actually think he's a capable running back. I think he's more talented than Alexander Madison. I'd rather have him on my team than Alexander Madison. And if we're going to give him the touches, I think Madison can actually be a nice change of pace back for Akers. I actually really want Akers to get this RB1 job I'd like to pick up.
Nice. I'm not going to argue with anything you said. You're the Vikings fan here. I think it's a very fair. It's like when you see those weird trades for guys that they're just like, we're just going to get him out of the building, so let's get a 6th and we'll trade him a 7th too. Yeah. It's just kind of like almost like a cap dump. Like it's whatever. And like he's still young.
He's still like 24.
Exactly. So he still has potential. So I do like the move from Minnesota, especially with how poor Madison was like the first 2 weeks.
How bad. Our run game is second to Pittsburgh and the worst in the league. So there has to be improvement somewhere. The Vikings also signed a guard, Dalton Risner, to $5 million, former Denver Broncos guard. So looking to improve the interior line. Hopefully get the run game going a little bit more because Kirk outside of the weapons we have, Kirk is hurting with this O-line in this run game because we're having to throw the ball 45, 50 times a week, which is what we said coming into the season, but it's hurt a lot more than I think we thought in theory.
Yeah, because we just thought Justin Jefferson was just gonna.
Yeah.
Which he has, but
Which he has been. He's got freaking 320 yards on the year already.
it's like 0-2.
Yeah, so too many turnovers. They're forcing it a ton. So there has to be some form of balance. Running the ball in this league also is a necessity, not a luxury in this league. So you have to have balance to win games, and I think the Vikings are kind of learning that lesson right now.
Yeah.
So that's gonna do it for this podcast. Week 2 recap, week 3 picks. We'll have an MSU podcast come out on the Weber State game, which you might be attending.
I am attending. The
In
tickets are bought.
Ogden, you are attending
I am attending.
in Ogden, Utah. So we're gonna talk about some stuff there. We are really gonna talk Sac State's Stanford as well.
Yep.
And we're gonna talk a couple of the college football stuff, Colorado State. So MSU recap and college football recap will be on that. And then yeah, that's basically it. It's gonna be 2 episodes a week for most of the week. We're gonna do some baseball breakdown here soon once the playoffs come around. I know we really slacked on that this year when we got it up and going. It's been hard to find the time.
Especially with what? There's 3 or 4 guys on it?
There's 3 or 4 guys, so it's hard for schedules to match. We've been trying to piece it together here and there and do some funner, more lengthier, more experimental episodes with that, which have worked. So look out for that come playoff time, and then we're going to go round by round in the playoffs. But as for now, it's football twice a week for you guys, college, pros.
Football.
Yeah.
It's all about the football.
Yeah. So
Yes,
Instagram at Hurdle Podcast, HRDL Podcast, YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Coming down your game of the week, or anything you're betting. Be very interested to hear about that. And then yeah, I think that's gonna do it.
Yes, sir.
Also Spotify, Hurdle Sports. But yeah, that's it. Bailey, Logan, NFL week 2, week 3. Peace.